Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're continuing on with the advent calendar of Christmas horror movies. It's the 7th of December, which means we're a week into this, and I kind of just want to talk about something that's been on my mind: motivation. Honestly, that's going to be kind of the word that pops up frequently throughout this entire video is motivation. So in terms of motivation, there's that old saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And well, that's bullshit. Make no mistake, I love doing these videos. I love making the content that I do. I love working on this channel. It's a side gig for me, but it's growing, it's seeing dividends. I'm really jazzed about the whole thing, and it's one of the biggest things in my life that gets me up in the morning. It's passion. It's one of those things where, you know, the other pursuits of my life, financial or otherwise, oftentimes are in support of this. This is where my heart really lies. And why am I bringing all of this up? Well, here's the thing, is after yesterday's review of the 12 Sleighs of Christmas, I was not wanting to watch another Christmas horror movie. I was broken by that movie. I am serious. The wind is out of my sails, and what is oftentimes a joy in and of itself has turned into a situation where this is now work. This is the kind of thing where I purposefully have to force myself to engage on a level that my natural self just is not feeling quite that inclined to. So it's almost 12:30 in the afternoon on the 7th, and this is when I'm recording. I just got done watching the 2020 movie Hosts. And I mean, not terrible, not great. I guess there's your early review. But fact of the matter was, I didn't want to watch shit. Honestly, just speaking from the heart here, reading about how there might be rumor mills of Charlie Cox returning as Daredevil, I was just kind of wanting to do a rewatch of that. But the advent calendar calls, and sometimes the passion is still work. So even though I was broken, and even though the wind was not in my sails, I still had to find a way to push forward, and push forward I did by pushing play on Hosts. So yeah, I kind of forced myself into this, and I was a grumpy pants when I did. So the general plot of the 2020 movie Hosts is we have a young couple that are together for the holidays, and they have plans to go over to their neighbor's house and enjoy Christmas dinner with them and their family. A little bit of a monkey wrench gets tossed into the works when they see some bright lights and apparently get taken over by aliens and still go to the dinner. All right, so hosts, the double meaning there. Okay, fine. Yeah, they're hosts for the alien presence as well as dining with their hosts. And then some murderous stuff happens from there, and decent enough. But again, the one thing I wanted to talk about was motivation. This movie had a fair amount of positive qualities to it. It had kind of an interesting opening credit sequence. It's something you don't see too often anymore. A lot of the blood and splatter and gore and so on, remarkably well done. The camera work was fairly adept. I mean, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it looked clean, it looked good. They pulled sharp focus. No real complaints on that level. Everything that I want to complain about with this movie, and there's a fair bit, is down to the motivation. And that mostly comes down to I still have no idea what anybody's motivation in this film actually was. We have this couple that's taken over by an alien presence. So what is the alien's motivation? What are they trying to achieve? And how are they going to get that achievement met by going to this dinner? That's honestly the thing that bugged me the most about this movie. Is it's one thing to kind of leave the motivations of what the end goals of each character is a bit nebulous. If you want to have some sort of grand reveal of a family secret that explains why everything's been happening the way it's been happening, that's fine, but there should still be at least some explanation of the motivation of the methodology. Is the alien race trying to invade everybody? Well, then why sit down to dinner and stare blankly at nothing for a good solid 10 minutes. If you're just trying to kill people and steal their pinky toes, you're probably not going to be wasting a whole lot of time over your potatoes. I just never really understood exactly what anybody was actually trying to do. There seemed to be a level of Machiavellian malevolence here that was about as nuanced as Snidely fucking Whiplash.
The consequences for him will be far more severe.
and I just don't understand why. The end goal was never really firmly established, and even if it had been, it still doesn't explain why this presence needed to play with its food, as it were. And when we have situations when there really is no motivation as far as an end goal, or at the very least it's something that's kept from the audience, or even if it's just a situation of just because, that does work, and it does work remarkably well sometimes. But it still has to have some level of motivation of the methodology. Just because is fine. You want to just kill people with absolutely no reason? Hey, it's a horror movie. I'm on board. But if just because is going to be your motivation, you at least need to have a well fleshed out idea of how you're going to go about doing that, and then adhere to that fairly strictly. Instead, with this movie, there really doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason about why anybody is acting the way that they are. And with the survivors, I still don't know what their motivation was. Okay, fine. Survive. No problem there. However, again, their methodology is quite suspect. Nobody in the victim or survivor's camp really behaved in any kind of realistic fashion. Nobody was reacting to the situations that they were going through with any level of credibility. It's kind of tough to rally around characters and root for their survival when they're constantly making the absolute worst decisions possible and not really making any kind of believable performance that they are really in this situation. A lot of filmmakers go out of their way and really do their best to try and address the cell phone problem. Cell phones exist now, so when we're not making a period piece and we're set in the modern day, or at the very least, let's just say the late 90s or after, cell phones need to be addressed. If somebody is under duress or harm or being chased, then they're naturally going to want to call for help. And there's any number of reasons that could go bad. Their battery dies, they don't get a signal. Sometimes there's some really creative methodologies to explain that away. But it's not very often that we have a movie like Hosts that explain it away by simply having a character not wanna. We have a character taking a moment in isolation when she's on her cell phone and has the perfect opportunity to call for help, instead calls her faraway boyfriend, and he's telling her, call the police, call the police, call the police. And she says, no, it's too dangerous. And then has the audacity to ask him to come to help. How does that make any logical sense compared to calling somebody that is trained for this event, that has equipment to deal with it, that has backup and communication resources, and is a fuck of a lot closer? See, this is the kind of thing that just makes me pull my hair out when I watch a movie like this. I don't really expect a ton of realism in this, but at least a modicum of it if it's constantly making me question the character's motivations, methodologies, and logic. I'm going to get pulled out of the movie, and that's exactly what happened here. So although this movie has a lot of really great benefits to it, I just didn't see it work. It never really gelled, and I'm just honestly kind of glad that it was over. Again, grumpy pants. Sorry. I remember feeling generally like this last year, and then I watched 𝗘𝗾𝘂𝗶𝗽𝗺 Christmas, a movie that I really thought would be absolutely terrible and I was bracing myself for, but that was like a B vitamin shot to the holly jollies. It was perfect. It really brought me back into the Christmas spirit, and it kept me going. I was hoping for that with Hosts, and I didn't get it, so fingers crossed the next one might raise my spirits. But beyond that, I think that's about it for this review. It's time to go ahead, start editing, and get this released before the day is out. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you on my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.